Does anybody remember the Babysitters Club? For those who don't know, the Babysitters Club is a book series written by Anne M. Martin that ran from 1986 to 2000, but there are still plenty of books of them you can find in bookstores, but the book covers and illustrations are a lot more cartoonish than the originals. But in this video, it's obvious I'm focusing on the nostalgic, classic, realistic-looking characters from the original book series. So this series is about a group of tween friends who live in Stony Brook and who start their own babysitting business. Each of the characters have their own traumatic pasts, but are still making the best of their lives and amazing memories with all their friends and the kids they babysit too. Let's talk about each of the members of the club. Kristen Amanda Thomas, also known as Kristy, is the president of the club and is the one who started it all. Kristy takes her role and her club very seriously, and she can be bossy and controlling at times, which she is fully aware of, but she still cares about her friends and loves children. Kristy is also the tomboy of the group, due to her mostly wearing caps, turtlenecks, jeans, and sneakers, her passion for baseball and softball, and her dislikes of fashion and romance. Although, she also enjoys babysitting and doesn't mind the color pink. Kristy lives with her mother Elizabeth and 3 brothers, Sam, Charlie, and David, and she also lives with her stepfather, Watson, whom she eventually learns to warm up to, along with her step-siblings, Andrew and Karen, and her half-sister, Emily. Kristy doesn't live with her father, Patrick, because he checked out on her and the rest of the family when David was born, and Patrick and Elizabeth eventually got divorced. Kristy may be stubborn and stuck up at times, especially when it comes to change, and he may be competitive and have jealousy issues, but she deeply has a heart of gold and is loyal and compassionate. After Kristy, there's Claudia Lynn Kishi, the vice president of the club. Claudia is Japanese-American, and she's the only Asian main character. Claudia is very artistic, creative, and outgoing. She loves art and fashion, and she really loves to eat, especially when she's stressed. She is very fun-loving and dislikes anything she considers boring, like school and homework, and she's pretty much a typical teenage girl who feels her family doesn't understand her, dislikes school, enjoys junk food, and is focused on fashion trends and boys. Claudia lives with her mother, Rear, and her father, John, who are both very stern and don't approve of some of the interests she has, and she also lives with her older sister, Janine, who can be rude and condescending at times. The 2 sisters often insult each other and have a hard time getting along, due to Claudia being popular and beautiful and Janine being intelligent and successful at school. But the 2 of them eventually learn how to get along better and warm up to each other more. Claudia struggles a lot in school, especially reading. She may be a slow reader, but she's a huge fan of Nancy Drew because she feels those books teach problem-solving and critical thinking. That being said, Claudia is definitely more of an artist than a reader, and her creative spirit lifts all the other members' spirits. After Claudia, there's Anastasia Elizabeth McGill, also known as Stacey, the treasurer of the club. Stacey is a perky and fashionable girl who moved from New York to Stony Brook because of her parents' divorce and her diabetes. She has a very good fashion sense, and unlike Claudia, Stacey is very good at school subjects and gets straight A's on her report card. She is very sophisticated and mature, and she would rather talk things out than have confrontations. She definitely has a lot of perkiness into her. Stacey is the most fanciful and boy-crazy of the club, and she is a hopeless romantic. In fact, she has had the most boyfriends out of all the other members. Stacey lives with her mother Maureen in Stony Brook, but she also gets to visit her father Edward in New York on weekends. When she was younger, she got dumped by her old friends from back in New York, all because she wet herself from her diabetes during a sleepover, but she's happy to have all of her new friends in Stony Brook. Then there's Mary Ann Spear, the secretary of the club. Mary Ann has been a childhood friend of Kristy and Claudia's, and they've all been close friends ever since. Mary Ann is very shy and sensitive, and she cries very easily, and she is also not hard to scare. She is the softie of the group, and she enjoys sewing and knitting, and her favorite animal is kittens. She is very organized and hardworking, and she's mostly very sweet, kind, loving, and empathetic. But if you talk bad about her or insult her in any way, you better watch out. Her vindictive streak will get the best of her if you push her too far. She lives with her father, Richard, and she also gets a stepmother, Sharon, a stepsister, Dawn, and a stepbrother, Jeff. Richard is very stern at first and can be pretty controlling towards Mary Ann, but he soon understands how to stop being so overprotective of her. Plus, Mary Ann often feels heartbroken for how her mother passed away from cancer when Mary Ann was just a baby, but she still tries to make the best of life, and she may be introverted and insecure at times, but she comes up with good ideas and is a responsible and compassionate babysitter. Then, there's Dawn Reed Schaefer, the old alternate officer of the club. Dawn is a bright and idealistic California girl who moved from California to Stony Brook with her mother Sharon and her little brother Jeff, and she is a new friend of Mary Ann's in her first appearance, but then she becomes her stepsister as the series goes on after Sharon marries Richard. Dawn is a vegetarian, and she can be quite sensitive when she sees people eating meat. She is also an environmentalist, and she would do absolutely anything to prove she cares for the environment, and she wants to encourage others to do so too. Despite being very easygoing and laid back, she can also get petty and easily annoyed, and she knows how to call anyone out whenever they anger her. Her jealousy issues can also get the best of her, but her flaws aren't as bad as Kristy's. That all being said, Dawn is fun and outgoing, and she is very idealistic and cares about her family, especially Jeff and Mary Ann, her friends, and the environment. Just like Stacey, Dawn's parents are also divorced, which was before Sharon married Richard, and after a while of staying with her mother in Stony Brook, she eventually moves back to California with her father, Jack. And for those who are wondering how she's doing after she said goodbye to the Babysitters Club, she has her own book series, California Diaries, which will explain it all. But here's a warning. The storylines of California Diaries are much darker than the storylines of Babysitters Club. So after Dawn, there's Logan Bruno, who is Mary Ann's love interest and someone who becomes an associate member of the club, and not to mention, the only boy of the group. Logan used to live in Louisville, Kentucky, but he and his family moved to Stony Brook when he was 13. He lives with his mother, Louise, his father, Lyman, and his two younger brothers, Carrie and Hunter. Logan may be very jockish, and he participates in football, baseball, and track. But he also loves kids and actually enjoys babysitting too, and he wants to prove that being a babysitter is not just a girly thing. He is also very protective of those he cares about, especially his siblings, and even Mary Ann, and he is very funny and comprehending, even if a bit bullheaded at times. Mary Ann feels that Logan looks very similar to Sam Cleary, her favorite movie actor, and she's always had feelings for him, and they eventually become a couple. Besides Logan, there's another associate member, Shannon Louisa Kilborn. During her first appearance, Shannon doesn't enter the series as a friendly person. She is a rich and snobby girl who is rivals with Kristy, and the two of them look down on each other, due to Kristy having her own responsible business and Shannon being rich and beautiful. The two rivals have a prank war with each other until Shannon learns that Kristy's dog, Louie, passed away from an illness, and the two girls actually bond and become friends after Shannon gives Kristy and her family a new dog, and they decide to name it Shannon too. And from that time on, Kristy's rival-turned-friend becomes more compassionate and friendlier. Shannon can also be pretty studious, and she occasionally does tap dance lessons, and she also learns Spanish and French. She also likes animals, and is especially a dog lover like Kristy. She lives with her mother, Kathy, her father, Ted, and her two younger sisters, Tiffany and Maria. She dislikes studying and is uninterested in schoolwork. Shannon doesn't spend much time with the other members, but she occasionally does travel with them. And that's all there is to say about Shannon. Then there's Mallory Pike, one of the junior members of the club and one of the younger members. Mallory is very level-headed and practical, but she's not always as mature as she thinks she is. Plus, she can be klutzy and uncoordinated at times, and she's often insecure about her beauty, her braces, her glasses, and her nose, and she wishes she was beautiful. Mallory often enjoys reading and writing, and she always carries a journal with her. Mallory lives with her mom, Dee, her dad, John, and her three triplets, Adam, Byron, and Jordan, along with her other younger siblings, Vanessa, Nikki, Margot, and Claire. Because of how she has 7 siblings, life ain't no picnic for Mallory. She often has the responsibility to look after them, and they may drive her crazy at times, but she still cares about them and is a motherly figure to them all. Mallory's favorite animal is horses, and she loves reading horse stories about them, and her best friend Jessi has those same interests as her. And speaking of which, the other junior member is Jessica Davis Ramsey, also known as Jessi. Jessi is best friends with Mallory, and she also loves books and horses, although Mallory is the bigger horse bookworm girl. Jessi is also a dancer, and she participates in ballet classes, and as Mallory suggests that she should join the Babysitters Club, Jessi happily becomes a babysitter too. Jessi used to live in Oakley, New Jersey, but she and her family moved to Stony Brook, and they all did receive a lot of racist comments from certain people, but Jessi and Mallory become friends, and Jessi soon becomes friends with the other Babysitters Club members. Jessi lives with her father, John, her mother, Janice, her little sister, Becca, and her baby brother, Squirt. And yes, she is the only black girl in the club. And also, Jessi really dislikes arguments, and she and Mallory stay out of disagreements between the other club members. So you can say that both junior members are the peacemakers of the club. And last but certainly not least, there's Abigail Stevenson, also known as Abby, who originally entered the series as a new friend of the other Babysitters Club members, but then she joined the Babysitters Club after Dawn moved back to California, and yes, she became the new alternate officer. Abby is kind of a tomboy who enjoys playing soccer, but she also doesn't mind wearing dresses. She's also quite a jokester, and she loves telling puns, especially the cheer herself up while trying to cope with the loss of her father, Jonathan, after he passed away from a car crash. Abby and her family are all Jewish, and despite the loss of her father, she lives with her mother, Rachel, and her twin sister, Anna. She's very strong-willed and opinionated, but unlike Kristy, Abby is more positive and easygoing, and she knows how to tell her off whenever she's being a control freak. That being said, Abby tends to wander off whenever she's not the center of attention, and she can be slightly insensitive when it comes to telling jokes at times. That being said, Abby is mostly a very enthusiastic and outgoing girl. Abby dislikes romance and Valentine's Day, and the idea of love balks her. Abby has allergies to pollen, dust, and shellfish, and she fears having asthma attacks because of it. Despite her tragic past and insecurities, Abby is a good sport. And besides soccer, she also participates in tennis, skiing, softball, biking, volleyball, and ice skating. She's also a humorous and positive young girl who enjoys babysitting and spending time with her friends. And that's it for all of the Babysitters Club members and their personalities. For those who were fans of the series, which member is your fave? Let me know in the comments below, and be sure to subscribe to this channel to see more videos like this. Bye-bye for now, everyone.